Good day, and thank you for tuning in to Tuckahoe's Government Access Channel, Cable Channel 36, serving Tuckahoe and Eastchester. Tuckahoe's Government Access Channel 36 now presents coverage of the April 18th Tuckahoe Urban Renewal Agency meeting. Your cameraman director is Dewey Macenti, chairman of the Tuckahoe Cable TV Advisory Committee and Tuckahoe Cable Associate. Camera setup and graphics, and your announcer is Thomas Kennedy, Director of Cable Communications for the Village of Tuckahoe, and this is a Village of Tuckahoe Cable 36 presentation. And you're looking at the townhouses now under construction at the Tower Club on Columbus Avenue, Tuckahoe's last parcel of urban renewal land, and the topic of tonight's Urban Renewal Agency meeting. A reminder that all the Urban Renewal Agency meetings, Planning Board, Zoning Board, and of course the Village Board meetings are broadcast live here on Cable Channel 36 and repeated in the days thereafter. And we now carry the Bronxville Village Board meetings, and their broadcasts the last week of each month. But right now, the April 18th Urban Renewal Agency meeting, the chairman, John Callahan.
Okay, all right, good evening. This is the regular monthly meeting of the Tuckahoe Urban Renewal Agency. Commissioner Bonsi is absent with excuse this evening. The other commissioners are present, as is Mr. Cacciola. No one representing the developer is here as of this time, although I do expect Mr. Bernstein and Mr. Horowitz to be here this evening. Mike, could you start off with your report as usual as our liaison to the job site?
Well, there's not much I could report tonight because the fact that is that they haven't made too much progress on the job yet itself. They got all the plywood up on the roof, but there's no tar paper going on. Either the correlation of the job site is being properly supervised. They're wasting time. Like I made remarks before, it seems like it's a piecemeal job. And when it's a piecemeal job, they're going to waste a lot of time waiting for the next operation to start. There's no continuity in who follows who at all.
No coordination between the trades.
Yeah, the trades. I don't know whether I blame the trades. I don't think so. I said once before you should have more carpenters there. It's all the drywall to be worked on now. Very gone at a very slow pace, and unless something happens, I don't know. The street is still closed up there. I don't believe that they even started worrying about the other wall on the top there. Did they, Tony? When are they going to start that?
Now, I called the North Water Company myself to find out when they were going to hook up that fire hydrant, and Mr. Lorenz was out for a day or two, and the girl told me she would call me back, but she never got back to me today. So I'm trying to see what the holdup is there.
Yeah, because
they could get that connection.
I mean, they've had no traffic on our street now long enough. They should have had that all completed over there.
Well, for some reason or other, they can't backfill until they make the connection, until the North Shore Water Company makes a connection. So I tried to find out what was happening on that end, why North Shore Water Company was not there. But I was not able to speak with Mr. Lorenz.
Anything else, Mike?
I think we ought to ask Mr. Horowitz tonight, make another request about trying to get more carpenters on our job. I don't think they have enough carpenters. They did most of our job with 4 people. They had a couple of labor form carpenters there, but they weren't layout carpenters or do any structural work at all.
I know we did request from them within the last month a bar graph showing their estimated completion dates on the different parts of the construction. Hopefully we'll be receiving that soon. Al, did you have something?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I contacted the North Shore Water Company this morning at 10:30, 11. And Mr. Ryan told me that he faithfully would start construction on that hookup, that fire extension on Tuesday. The only thing that could possibly have delay that would be a main water break somewhere in the vicinity. The delay it. Mike, I have a question to ask you in reference to that plywood that is being used on that roof. Do you know what type of grade of lumber is it? How is it treated? The reason I asked that question, I heard over the radio in Jersey, quite a few roofs on homes have been condemned due to the plywood that was put on is an inferior complex of material. It's deteriorating. It's size 5 and 6 years, Mike. So I'm just curious to know what they're putting on over here.
Well, I don't believe we have to worry about what they're putting here. They're putting nothing but ordinary lumber. It's not that treated lumber which had shown up as a failure. I don't think there'll be any disaster on the roof once it's covered. Because even in the center they have a better material for fireproof walls between the different sections there, so we wouldn't have to worry about any decay or rotting of the plywood itself. But with materials that were used on it.
Through the deterioration of the roof, not the firewall.
Right.
It will last how many years will they say? 20 years? 30 years? We don't know.
Well, if it's covered properly and water don't hit it, it'll last forever. If you had just nothing but sheeting boards, the sheeting board, if you get it to rot, it's going to rot too. But what you're referring to, not that article you read in the newspaper where they had felt that this was more fireproof than the original lumber that they have. You know, you have wood that's made for the outdoors and wood for the indoors, and I'm pretty sure they're using the best quality for the outdoors.
Mike, I ought to know that.
All right, as I'm sure you're aware, Al, it's the building department's job to see that the materials are safe for the site and up to...
You know, Mr. Chairman, I go along with you, but there's such a what a contractor is supposed to put in and what he receives. Again, like I said, I worked in a lumber yard, and there's different grades of lumber. Different wood is treated different ways and everything else. So, what's supposed to be put in and what is something else, that's up to the individual inspectors to take care of.
Vernie?
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Sure.
At one meeting, they were discussing, how, right?
No, they're going to be 28.
28. And they were talking about putting fireplaces in these units?
Right.
How many?
I would imagine 28. We'll find out in a minute. That's how
Has
many.
that been thoroughly examined by the fire department? They're not putting any brick masonry there for the chimneys, are they? They're going to put galvanized pipe in that wooden frame. Where are they going to put the firewood? Who's going to oversee that? Wouldn't that be fire? Where are they going to store the firewood for 28 units in each individual complex, or are they going to have a storage yard for a little one? How are they going to work that? Isn't that hazard?
Well, at this point, we don't know whether they're going to have a gas burner there or wood burning. That's something we're going to ask tonight.
I don't want to mention wood. I was trying to think myself. I have a wood burning fire. It requires wood or more, and then you have to have, it's a safety hazard to me. Anyway, when I think of 28 and that, and I'm watching them erect that, and I'm thinking of 28, everybody doesn't wood neatly and safely. I wouldn't want to live in one of those houses. I was just thinking, and then not only that, what about the pollution? There's a man that lives right, if the wind blows the other way, it'll asphyxiate him. Whether they burn it once or twice a week, he's right in the direct line of that, the chimneys will be almost right by your home.
Yeah, well, I wasn't there Monday evening. It's my understanding that the planning board asked for certain studies to be done in connection with the fireplaces and chimneys. Commissioner Carapello was briefing me on that before, so I think that agency, that village body is looking into that.
If I remember correctly, the renderings did not show any masonry. They just showed stacks, which We've got one in place down Pennsylvania, you know, the
Well,
steel town.
the stacks are no longer there. I think it was initially at our suggestion that the stacks had been closed so they don't look like tin stacks sticking out of the top of the building.
No, I think that a hazard, you know, but the fire department looks into those specific things that each, you know. I was thinking 28, I was thinking 12, now you got 28.
Yeah, well, I have to assume that the building department and the fire department are doing their job, and it's difficult for us to, we don't have the time or the expertise or the power to go out and do their jobs, and we assume they're doing their jobs.
I'm aware of that, but under ideal conditions, they say, sure, that's okay, but the conditions will not be ideal maybe 6 months from now, depending on who tenants the building. 28 probably, you have 28 potential hazards.
Okay.
Where are they going to put the wood if they make wood fireplace? If it's gas, like Mike says, then I can see that if it's just aesthetic, just to make it look, you know.
John, when did wood?
The last time, about 2 years ago.
How much did it cost you for a half a quarter?
It costs a lot now, but I've been getting it from the village, thanks to the village. Sorry, I don't burn that much, but it does, it costs, it would be prohibitive.
Okay, I'd like to welcome Mr. Burns. I haven't seen you in a long time. It's good to see you, I think. Unless your being here means there's going to be some... I assume, I hope not, and Mr. Horowitz. Before you arrived, Commissioner Pinto was bringing us up to date on his observations based on being the liaison to the site, and I summarize his comments briefly in that he thinks there's a total lack of coordination between the trades on the job. He doesn't understand why the tar paper is not going on the roof, except one trade isn't coming in when it should be. Is that basically it, Mike? So maybe I could ask Mr. Horowitz to address that. Obviously, it's our concern, and it's all of our concerns that the project be finished by July 1st, and that's why we obviously are concerned whether there is the proper coordination between trades. There were also comments such as that only 4 carpenters a day were on the job.
Well,
You can start any place.
Okay,
Those
last,
comments in any order.
I don't know where your numbers are coming from, but the number of 4 carpenters a day is not accurate. There are many more. As far as the coordination of the trades, the contractor, I think, has things coordinated and knows what he's doing. And I know he has just completed the plywood sheeting on the roof and is scheduled within the next couple of days to have the tar paper immediately followed as they go along by the roofing. He has not done that because there are various penetrations that come through that roof. You'll notice the skylights are now set in place. There are some plumbing stacks that come through. There are a few other penetrations that come through. There are some vents that come through there, as well as the chimneys. Those penetrations come through, which are started now and should happen over the next. They will be followed immediately by the roof. Now, did I miss a point?
Your point's now well taken. I'm going to tell you again. Either I'm blind or I don't know how to count. There were 4 men that put that whole project together. You had other carpenters there that had nothing to do with leading the construction at all. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of drywall that could be being put up over there. Once you get your roof and close that building in, you don't have to worry about wet wires or nothing else. You're delaying the job for some reason or other. That's what I'm saying. Now you know you can't go ahead and put wiring in there until that thing is sealed in so that you don't wet the wires.
Absolutely.
All right?
That's correct.
You know April is going to be gone too. I know you're going to have extra time to build outside when we get to July 1st. Well, let's get it as soon after that as possible. We don't have to come over here and argue about, let's get this job finished. I've seen a lot of bigger jobs started, and they're completed already with the time in there.
Were you able to put together a schedule for the,
Yes, we asked the contractor to do that, and that's what I brought with me today.
okay.
I'm sorry, I only have 2 copies I can give you right now. But
Okay. I'll take them both. That way nobody else will fight over who gets the other one. One to Commissioner Pinto and one to Commissioner Carapella, Gallagher. Maybe for the benefit of those who might be listening, could you go through the schedule?
Basically, this is a bar chart prepared by Mattel Contracting Company, who is the general contractor for the project. And it starts at the beginning of April, and it lists the various trades, site and storm drainage, wood framing, masonry, etc., through all the trades. And it extends a timeline indicating when, in the sequence of construction, each of these trades take place, where they start and where they finish. And it ends with subscription at 6/30/90, and it has a last line of punch list and final touch-up extending through the month of July. So it was their intent, and they are stating within this chart that they will be substantially complete by the beginning of July, and that they will, any month, take care of punch list items and final touch-up, which is, as you know, minor things. But substantial completion being within the standard definition of the industry as suitable for its intended use.
I assume this was, since this was only recently prepared, that we're on schedule according to this now. Nothing is behind.
This I received from the contractor today, so and I see it's dated today, so it's as current as we could get.
On the electrical wiring, Larry, that's just tubing, right?
That's right. There is no wire. No, yeah. Oh, absolutely, sure. But that is, there is included within that. There is the main underground service, and there is the switch gear and all of that work, which takes place in conduit that's run underneath the garage level. I mean, if you can see, there are very long runs of heavy conduit in there, and that's all that means.
With regard to masonry and concrete, I'm assuming that before the brickwork can commence, first of all, the exterior walls have to be completed, and secondly, I think the windows have to be set in place before you can do the brickwork.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct. I think we noticed there are windows that were set today, I noticed, and that they are, the balance of the windows are starting to be delivered now. But I saw all the windows on the north wall were already installed today. The masonry also includes, I should add, some concrete block work. If you notice, that's been delivered to the site, and then there are boiler room enclosures and that kind of stuff that are going on below deck there. That's also within the masonry trade.
Speaking of the masonry block, have you worked on the walkway as proposed by the planning board upon entering the townhouses through the garage to the promenade deck? Have you been working on a plan?
We haven't had a chance. That's just since Monday. Today's Wednesday.
No.
We haven't had a chance
Well,
to look at that.
the reason why I'm bringing that up, since you're putting a masonry in that particular store, in the stairwell there, on the south end adjacent to the boiler room, perhaps you may come up with something, thus avoiding any future breakdown as far as masonry is concerned. Sometimes you'll put masonry blocks up and then you decide to change it and rip half of it down.
Well, now I can assure you that boiler room enclosure won't change because...
No, I'm talking about the stairwell. The stairwells have to be enclosed, right?
Yeah, no, the first thing they're going to do, though, is what they've started on right now are the boiler room enclosures, because they are critical to getting all that equipment in place and getting, like, the panel boxes mounted and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of boiler rooms, I didn't really review the plans thoroughly. Are the boilers going to be gas-fired or going to be oil-fired?
They're gas-fired.
Gas-fired, okay.
Mike, any comments or questions on
Well,
the...
according to here, the 18th of April, and he's going to be finished there by the end of April.
Finished what, Mike?
The roof.
That's what it says.
You see, one thing you don't show here, you don't show to prove to us how many men are putting this thing together. I mean, you come here with a chart, you got straight lines, you got some broken lines, you got the area here where, you know, the only thing that interests me is let's get this job finished and sold and let people move in. That's part of my game. I'm not here to obstruct you or to put any barricades in front of you. I'm asking you to, you know, and pleading with you, let's get it finished. But as soon as you're out of there, our neighborhood will come back to normal, and I don't have to hear people complaining about anything.
Commissioner Pinto, I can assure you that neither I nor the developer nor the contractor have any interest in letting this project take one day more than it will take.
You gonna what?
We have no interest in having this take one day more.
I know you don't have an interest.
It doesn't...
But you sure hasn't shown the willingness to get it finished. That's the difference. Your interest might be feeling that you want to get out of there, but your interest is not going to prove that unless it's finished. And the way you're going, you're not going to finish, even with the schematic that you got here. My way of looking at it.
I assume you're on the job from time to time?
Yes, we
on
are.
the site. How many men are working over there on the average? Or women? How many people?
That's hard to say. That varies.
No, just the number of four concerns me is obviously. You said that's not the case.
Well, I think I was there this morning. I'm just trying to count what I saw, and I do not make a head count. There is a job log there that the superintendent keeps, and I would be happy to get that information and from the contractor to give you very accurate statistics at the next meeting. Or if you'd like it sooner, I could send that in to you.
Are you satisfied with the progress he's making?
We're never satisfied. We always want it faster.
Do you, obviously, after studying this bar graph, do you feel those are realistic projections based on your observation of the job?
I think the one thing allow for contingencies in here. Yeah, it can rain, you can get a week of bad weather and things like that. But I don't see this thing being terribly out of whack.
Well, a lot of this work towards the end is inside work, right? So that shouldn't
be
affected.
I mean, as I look at it, and I must tell you, I just received this today, so I've not analyzed it carefully. But for instance, on the electrical, which that gap in the line, you'll notice, is because he's not starting his internal wiring until he's fully sealed in there. I expect that he would be starting that work a lot sooner than the 5/31 date. And I think he'll be able to get in there a lot earlier on that. So I think that portion of this is overly pessimistic.
You know what I can't understand here, you show you're putting cabinets in before your electric wiring and stuff for that. The sequence is there, you know, a lot of kilt the way I look at it.
No, I think what he's showing here, if I read this correctly, is that the cabinet work and electric wiring are running simultaneously. Bear in mind that wiring is, in the earlier part, he has laid in his conduit and he's actually pulling wire.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
and
the conduit.
so
You gotta pull a lot of wire
you
in
can
it.
pull the wire through the conduit at any point, actually. But as I said, I suspect that that electrical thing is overly pessimistic. I think it will be in there earlier with the actual wiring portion.
Where are we with the planning board? I know you were before them on Monday evening. And,
Yes, we
what's
presented-
approved and what's still up in the air?
Well, I've not seen the resolutions written, but as I heard them, on the various items, the upper retaining wall was approved as all reinforced concrete. They did not want us to leave any of the rubble wall in place. And we conveyed those instructions to the contractor already, and they started today on the excavating in preparation for the upper retaining wall. The superintendent's apartment was approved. There was a request that we look at a minor modification to the planning of a living room configuration, which we are doing. The north stair modification was approved, subject with the proviso that it be increased from 4 feet to 5 feet in width.
What's this, the north stair? Where's that?
That is going from the promenade down to the existing pool deck level. The south stair, Carmine, you can correct me, I'm doing this from memory now. The south stair omission of that one run was approved, and we were asked to look into the possibility of providing some additional access along the parking garage level that would segregate from the traffic level, traffic area. The enclosures of the chimneys, the changing of some of the flat windows to bay windows was approved. And I think that was it, wasn't it? Was there another item?
No, there's one other regarding the retaining wall on the south end between the turnabout. There's no wall there that...
Oh, yeah, that's right, I'm sorry. There was a question raised at the planning board about the adequacy of the engineering design of the slope at the area between the end of the retaining wall and the turnaround at the south end, and we were asked to have our engineers look again at that situation. I believe those were all the items that were covered there.
Other than, of course, the smoke...
There was some questions raised. Although the enclosure, the issue before them of the enclosing was approved. There was, in addition to this, some discussion, some of which I caught as I walked in this evening, relating to smoke and the like. At the planning board meeting, I assured that board, and I will assure this agency also, that the chimneys are legal. They're designed in compliance with all the applicable codes and regulations. The actual fireplace units themselves are fire underwriter rated, and all the distances, heights above roofs, all those things meet all the applicable codes and regulations.
Well, I believe that the planning board requested environmental impact study and a report from the Westchester Health Commission with regard to the safety of those residents in the neighboring area. I think that was one of the requirements they wanted.
Well, I'm not sure
You see,
who was to do what.
Well,
I mean,
you spoke of building codes, okay? I think what the planning board was concerned about was the emission of smoke, okay? If the emission of smoke is in accordance with the environmental impact study and the Westchester Health Department okays it and says there's no ill effects from the smoke, then I think the people, the residents in the area will be satisfied.
Who's supposed to be doing that, the developer?
I'm not sure. That was not clear in our minds.
was clear in my mind. I guess
Are we to go to the health department and ask them if
Do an environmental impact statement, see if it'll have...
I'm not sure that's
impact,
the
or-
correct technical language for what you're asking for. I mean, environmental impact statement is a much more,
It can be, sure.
well, I'm not
you'll
sure.
have to check with the planning board on that. I remember them.
That's why I say I haven't seen the language of the resolutions, and I'm not sure whether that was a condition of approval or whether that was an additional suggestion or requirement or just what that was. But there was certainly concern voiced, as you heard this evening too, about the effects of the smoke.
Right, and that's what they were concerned about. The planning board was concerned about the smoke.
That's correct.
Because you mentioned to the board that the stacks conformed with the building code.
I went farther
You mentioned
than
that at the meeting, that
yes,
they
that's
conformed with the
correct.
building code and the New York, of course, the village and the New York State building code.
Right.
But the concern was the emission of smoke. And that was brought up, I think one of the members of the board brought up that they wanted an environmental impact study made on that.
Yeah, I'm not aware of a health department code that regulates the smoke emissions from domestic fireplace chimneys.
Neither do I, but you'll have to check with the planning
So
board on that. They brought
it
it up.
will be very hard for us to comply with codes that don't exist. That's all I'm saying.
All right, we'll take this now as we go along. Al?
Yes, Mr. Commissioner, Mr. Horowitz.
Now, Larry, maybe you shouldn't sit down. I know these are going to be directed to you and not me, so...
I just wanted to give you the mic.
I go along with Mr. Howard's statement that they have requested environmental and well, those who report to require to check on the environmental of that smoke in the back.
All right, well, I'm sure Mr. Horowitz will be checking the exact language of whatever the resolution was passed to
Now,
make
can
sure.
I ask you a question on the coating of each and every one of those chimneys? You have them, if it's passed, screen and a captain on
Yes, sir.
the boat.
Yes.
Okay, John?
Is it going to
Okay.
be wood or no gas by any chance, any of the burners?
They're wood-burning fireplaces. They're made by Heatolator. I'm sure you know the brand name. No.
John Paverni?
All right, wait to ask a question. If this was passed by the building inspector, whoever it is, the height of the chimney, that's assuming that all these buildings are on the same level. Now, they will be below the level of this, Alconti's house.
No,
If the
the
chimney meets all the specifications, got 28 chimneys, latent height of the roof, that'd be all right if they were on that side, but now his building is above that. The chimneys are gonna be on line with his first wall.
no, the code is more specific than that. It takes into account.
I'm not trying to pin you down.
No, no. The code defines not only the heights of these, but it also defines distances horizontally from neighboring buildings. Yes. Yeah. So that's addressed in the code.
I'm concerned for my neighbors.
No, I don't blame you. We are too.
Mr. Evans, do you have any idea about how high it would be above the ridge of the roof?
2 feet.
2 feet?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I don't know if we stopped the presentation or when you got to those questions.
I think I had completed my presentation.
Okay. As far as the high-rise structure, what, if anything's taken place there in the last month as far as correcting any open items? Anything?
I know Mr. Bernstein was present at a...
I can't wait.
I know.
It's been so long, that's all.
It's always a pleasure to see the smiling countenances.
Same here.
And most important, I'd like to comment on the new hairstyle Mr. Pinto has. I think you look very stylish.
That was during the election. He had an advisor who told him to comb his hair like that and wear blue shirts.
Really, you look very...
I don't want you to feel bad, but I do more work during my day, at my age, than half the crowd that you got on our building working.
Well, I always said that I wanted to use your good offices.
And you know what I get for my whole day's work? I go to Andy Albanese and sit down and have a good spaghetti dinner or lasagna or something else. If I'm with his brother Johnny, I wind up going to Roy Rogers for chicken.
Seems like his brother's better. In any event, I'm sure you've heard, whilst I was not here, that there were many suggestions that the owners who live in the beautiful Tower Club to me from time to time as to what should be done and what shouldn't be done in regard to the building. And we had over the months had a variety of conversations and discussions with Mr. Filiberti, who was a member of the board of managers of the Tower Club, and there were quite a number of suggestions, but because of the intervening act of another agency, I stopped doing what I was doing until we would have a discussion, an informal discussion at that agency. As a result of that agency, I think we've resolved 99% of the items that were under contention with the help of the state agency. And we believe we're on the right track. Mr. Horowitz is going to meet with the engineer representative to discuss certain of the issues which Mr. Horowitz has filed with the building department in regard to the leaks in the garage plaza, the type of coating that was to be used, and also the leaks in some of the terraces. And there might be some further suggestions. As far as the question of security, prior to the intervention of the other agency to place a security camera at an appropriate place within the garage for additional security. I had previously placed a security camera at the entrance to the garage, which was no obligation of the sponsor. So I am going to put the other camera in. We've got estimates on what to do, and we're going to put it in because as a result of the meeting, we renewed our offer to do it, and we're going to do it. As far as the security, we're working on the agency that provides the security guards to maintain a continuity of people that are working at the desk, so that the owners and tenants would be familiar to the person that's at the desk, and so that would solve one of the problems that they had in regard to security. And the question of other repairs were addressed, and we believe that they're resolved, and we're also, notwithstanding any other intervention, we have agreed to meet on a more frequent basis with our property manager, Mr. Leica, will be at the building from time to time, the tenants and the owners, to get firsthand some of the problems that they were having. If there are any, that we could address them quickly.
Is everything operational vis-a-vis the swimming pool and the health club?
Well, there's the jacuzzi or the spa was not achieving the heat that it was supposed to be, and that's being repaired, and I believe Mr. Graff had told me that it will be operational next week because it wasn't achieving the heat that it was supposed to achieve. But the swimming pool is working fine. The racquetball court is working fine. And building looks like it's good shape. The other problem that they were having was the question of cleaning the atrium, the windows in the atrium, and we're going to take care of that. We've got a contractor who's agreed to do that.
Is the leak that we're having a problem within the atrium, has that been taken care of to the best of your knowledge?
Well, we believe that the leak has been solved with the flashing, etc. There still seems to be, according to one of the owners, a leak in the door above where you walk in from the garage, which we thought we had corrected, but we're going to take a look at that. And there are other leaks that they were supposed to tell us about in a variety of apartments for touch-ups, and our maintenance people are going to take care of it when it gets to it. It seemed to have been resolved very nicely, and I think that we're all working together to get it cleaned up and finished. The other remaining point that has to be taken care of is the cleaning up whatever items were left with the building department for the permanent certificate of occupancy, and Mr. Horowitz and Mr. Scott are supposed to meet. They have not been able to get together, and hopefully they'll do that shortly.
I noticed the other day that some of the balconies still have some of this gray tape on them.
Well,
spots here and there, and that some of the I don't know, what do you call that finish? Whatever color it is, it's bronze. What is it referred to? The color of the finish on the outside of the balcony.
Anodized metal.
Some of that
Anodized
looked
metal.
like it was the worse for wear, apparently, after getting this tape off, especially the ones in the back. Have you noticed that? Have you looked at that?
Was it?
Yeah, I think in peeling off some of that paper finish, I think some of the adhesive was remained on it. I don't think it's finished package. That they're trying to
It's got to be cleaned off with some sort of solvent or something. Okay.
And which also brings us to the other point that I wanted to advise this board of is that we have filed the amendment to the plan for the sale of the townhouse units. It should be accepted for filing this week. And I had advised this board that the residents of the village of Tuckahoe would receive a first crack at that. So I would think that next week we should be in a position where we could have a pre-opening where we have a model, a small model, plus we have the plans, and perhaps we could open it up to the residents prior to opening it up to outsiders for, let's see, next week would be, like we could do it like starting with May 1st for the first 2 weeks before we open it up to the public.
Okay, and would that be at the sales office at
Yeah.
the Tower Club?
Yes.
Yeah, could we, before that date, if possible, would you forward the agency a copy of the, whatever it is you filed with the Attorney General?
Yes,
The offer?
as soon as it's accepted, we can't
Okay,
distribute it
fine.
until
And a
it's
copy
accepted.
of whatever promotional brochures you're going to make
Sure.
available? Okay.
Sure, so if we're accepted for filing by the end of this week, shall I, you could send out a notice or something for a 2-week period?
I
We'll-
can arrange that or have it on cable TV or something in the paper or something, fine.
Okay, so I'll
Well,
let you know as soon as
okay.
it's accepted for filing. I'll Federal Express copies of the approved plan for each of the members and the building department, and then we could open it up for residents only.
And if you have any literature at that
The
time?
literature also will be available.
Okay. Does anybody have any comments on that?
Well, we'd like to
Okay, I thought that-
we'd like to proofread the literature prior to distribution. We don't want to go through the same ordeal as we did with the Tower Club.
Well, I assume we're going to have it a few days before whatever date it was. I don't want the public to get the impression, though, that we're approving or affirming to any of the statements that are in the literature. You know, we don't want to put ourselves in that position. But yes, we do want to see it in case there were any anything that we think is significantly out of line that we could contact you about. Okay, so if we could have. How many days? A few days? 4 or 5 days?
Well, so, it may be this week, and if it's this week, I'll send you copies up this week.
Okay, fine. And then I'll see that it's, get a copy to the commissioners.
Do you have a handle on the price yet, Mr. Bernstein?
I'm not permitted to
Okay.
discuss that until they accept it.
No. Anything else on that aspect?
There's one thing I wanted to ask you.
Sure.
How many apartments in the towers yet to be sold?
52, I think.
It's 52 to be sold. I'm not talking about the ones you got rented out. I'm talking about the
No, I'm talking about the ones. Those are
sold
rented.
on a tax roll.
No, they're all in the tax roll.
Well, we know they're all on a tax roll, but I'm talking about individually owned.
Yeah, there's a 52.
There's 52, right?
They're rented.
They're rented.
Yeah,
That's
and
what
I
I'm
believe the sales office is not rented, and the super's apartment, of course, is not rented. That's 2. And I think there's another apartment that's not rented, that's available for sale. All the rest of them are rented with options to purchase.
You also have an obligation of replacing or restoring the superintendent's apartment down on the lowest
Yes,
floor, right?
yes.
You ain't worked on that yet, neither.
Yes, we have. We have filed the plans with the building department. We have it approved by the planning department, yes, on Monday night. And now we're going to get some bids for doing the work. So that's been approved, and we're going to do it.
Now, you're saying a week you want to have a plan to review for the sales of the townhouses, right?
Pardon me?
You just said that you're going to try to get an approval.
Yes,
sale.
the amendment to the plan has been filed with the
No,
Attorney
I'm
General.
talking about asking people to come down and buy now.
Well, what I'm saying is that for a certain period, a couple of weeks, I want to not open it up to the public. I want to reserve it for residents of the village, which I said that I would do.
We don't want to go through that same episode that we played, having people waiting 2 years or better to move in there.
I don't certainly want to do that either.
Well, I don't know.
Why? I don't.
Unless you can get somebody.
I
in a
had more
hurry.
here when I started.
Unless you get somebody in a hurry to do a lot of carpenter work and setting up doors. How many doors you think you got in there to set?
Look, I have a...
How many doors do you think a good pair of carpenters will set in one day?
I have a written contract with a third-party contractor who's agreed to do something within a certain period of time. I'm paying him based on the requisitions with the approval of my architect and my engineers. The contractor has nothing to do with the sponsor or developer. He's an independent third party. So the most I can do is have my architect supervise and make sure the work gets done as quickly as possible, and make sure that the work that he says is done has been done properly, and pay him when the work is done. Now, that's all I can do. I stay on him, I'm pushing him. Mr. Horowitz is pushing him. Mr. Horowitz's staff is pushing him. He assures us he's going to complete the job when he says he's going to complete it. I can't tell him to hire more people. I can't tell him to hire less people. It's his responsibility. It's a fixed price. It's not something where we had a partner or a co-sponsor doing the job where he could do whatever he wanted to do. This is a third-party contractor, highly respected, has done work in the village before, and he's a man of his word. I trust that he's going to do the job the way he's supposed to do it. I can't tell him how many people to work or how many people not to work. He's got his own subs and he's got his own supervisor and his own manager watching the job as well as himself. And from what I can see, I think he's done a very, very good job compared to the prior general contractors or partners that we had in the job before. So I think we're on the right track. And I would like to thank all of you people who've helped me to straighten out the job and get it on the right path. And I think that with your help, we have redesigned the townhouses. We've cured most of the problems in the building, and we've done it with outside people and our own people in our own office. That's not really our job, being in the general construction business, and we try to do the best we can with professional staff.
All right, this is what I also worried about. The punch list can harbor a multitude of sins, unfinished product. And you have there for the whole month of July, punch list final touch-up.
Well, Commissioner
You're
Pinto...
over there 5 years and you still got the punch list going.
Well, I have one thing going for me on this particular job is that I have a retainage. And the retainage means that you don't get paid your retainage until you finish the job, including the punch list. So if a man's got 10% sitting around doing nothing, and he's got small items that he doesn't finish, he's going to do his work. That's the only hammer you have over somebody, is that he's got a lot of his profits sitting there waiting for it. He's got to finish up the job. That seems to work wonders with general contractors and subcontractors. So I know what you're saying. I know that the terrible problems we had in the tower. We trust with our new staff that we have, we're going to alleviate all that problems. When they get the job done, when we said it was going to be done, the contractor's going to live up to his contract and to his word. We're going to have the job finished, and lots of people from the village are going to buy the units before we sell it to anybody else. Hopefully there'll be no units left, the outside people. And everybody will be happy, and this Urban Renewal Board will go down in history as the only one that's been able to develop that beast all these years. And hopefully I would say goodbye to the village, even though I like it.
Mr. Bernstein, the only thing is, I always like to guess, you know. I'm going to guess one thing tonight, that ain't be nobody moving in there on the 30th day of the 6th month of this year.
Well, I don't have a crystal ball. All I can do is the best I can. I think what I've said to you is that we're going to do it, we're going to get it done as quickly as possible, that we're going to have a third-party contractor, we're not going to have our own contractors that we had before. It's all new people. I even went so far to bring in a really third party other than Mr. Spatanuda, because of the fact that we wanted to make sure the property was going to get done as quickly as possible and in a workmanlike fashion so that we couldn't be criticized by the village or by this agency. I think we've lived up to our word, and I think you can look outside and see that what you people have approved is on the way to be completed. I mean, really, the hard work has already been done.
Carmine, did you have something?
Well, the only thing I'm a little dubious about the installation of the gypsum board. The bar graph here shows approximately 10 working days. And we have 28 units. The gypsum boards have to be installed, and each board has to be taped. To do that in 2 weeks, unless they have a sufficient amount of men, and they can't do it 4 or 10 men, they really have to hustle to complete this.
Well, we'll make sure they hustle.
That's all
That's what we're asking for. That's exactly what we're asking for.
I didn't prepare this.
No,
they prepared
I
it.
fully understand that. But
So we're going to make them live up to their bar graph. I mean,
Okay,
I mean, what am I going to do? I can't argue with when they said they're going to do it. I'm going to say, no, you can't do it.
So my point is that it seems rather tight unless they put a sufficient amount of men. But remember, you have 28 units, and there are so many rooms per unit, you know, and they put sheetrock up. I know they're fast workers, but they're not miracle men. And to tape, you just can't tape that in one operation. In other words, it's a 3 operation. You get the rough coat, and medium coat, and then you get the finish coat, which takes time. It's time consuming. And the only thing I'm concerned about is the time that's allocated on the bar graph to complete this. Now, I don't think it's a realistic figure. Unless they put a 10 man in each unit, and then perhaps it can be expedited.
Well,
Is that a realistic figure based on your experience, Mr. Horowitz?
yeah.
I don't think that's realistic if it includes all the taping on it. I'm not sure that that's what their intent is here. I think my guess is that, and I've not, gone over this in detail with the contractors. I've just seen it today. Looking at it, I mean, I would agree with Commissioner Carabella. I think that what they're probably saying there is that they're getting the rock up in that 2-week period, but that they're going to go beyond that in the actual taping, because it is a 3-coat operation that's sequential.
Well, I'm still questioning the installation of it also.
But if
because
you
remember,
notice,
Larry, you got 10 working days, okay? According to this graph. Now let's see.
no, but if you notice, you'll see the painting doesn't start for 3 weeks after that point. So I think what he had in mind is that the taping goes beyond that point of 5/31. Because if you notice, go down to where his painting is, he's got that in the last week of that month. He's got a 3-week gap between what he's showing is the end of the gypsum board and the beginning of painting. So I presume that the taping is continuing beyond that, and it's really more like a 5-week period of that gypsum board going in, if you include the taping. No, wait, I'm sorry. That no. I'm looking at the I was looking at the HVAC line. No,
Look at the painting there. The painting is I don't know, it doesn't coincide with the gypsum board. In fact, see when they commence.
Yeah, he's got some overlap.
Board, they commence with the painting.
He's got some overlap on that.
Right.
Unless he may have the. I know.
Other work to do before
but he may. I think that painting is including his preparation, because the painting is certainly not a 6-week job. That I believe that line is taping and painting, and that the gypsum board is simply the installation of the rock. I mean, that would make sense then. I mean, I'm second guessing him right now, but in trying to interpret this, I think that's what this probably means. And I think your observation is accurate there, that the gypsum board in that 2-week period couldn't include the taping also. I would presume that, but since that painting line is so long, I would presume that that's where the overlap is.
Anything else from the board?
There are no more.
Any comments from the public? Al? Mr. Conti?
I would like to know from Mr. Hurwitz or Mr. Bernstein on that road that is in front of my house, when do you think that you are going to be able to open that up for us? Because it's hell, like I said before, Monday night, pulling in and out of a driveway with a half a road. What I can't understand is you have quite a few pieces of equipment on that site with one operator jumping from one machine to the other. That's a union problem of their own. I'm not going to get involved with that. But if you were really hastening to try to get that wall started, you could have started on the corner of Clinton and Pleasant Place on the north side, or either on the south side. The way you did the first wall down below, you started one side and the other, you came into where the fire hydrant is, and you stopped there, because now you have to wait for the water company time. But in the meantime, construction work could have continued like Mr. Pinto said, on the north side, the east side, or the west side, one or the other. To me, it's just a lack of supervision. In trying to get that road open, it's hell. Repeated. The neighbors have been hounding me. I believe they've been hounding Mr. Pinto, Mr. Caccioli over here, and Ed Scott, our building inspector. You know when that started? December the 15th, 1989, when that road collapsed. You know that, or do you? I have it right here at 10:30. I spoke to Mr. Caccioli and I spoke to Mr. Scott. I think it was about an hour and a half to 2 hours before it collapsed. Mr. Caccioli, am I right or wrong? I was about shoring that embankment because the road was starting to crack north and south. Then later on it started to crack east and west. That's when I became very, very much concerned, because then I would have nothing to go in or out of my house driveway. So, you know, I go along with construction like I said before. I worked on it, but not this month. 4 months? Come on. Let's get going, huh, please, like Mr. Pinto said.
I guess beyond the statement, there was a question there, is when do you think that road will be able to be, well, maybe I should ask Tony. No, I shouldn't. Okay. Where's Mr. Harwood?
The key fact, if you go back to my earlier statement, was with the decision on Monday evening from the planning board about the rubber wall and that concrete retaining wall, when that decision was made, we conveyed that to the contractor, and this morning work was commenced on the excavation for the upper wall. So that has started now, and that work will run continuously.
Anything else?
On that yet? Sir? Did they start removing that beautiful wall now?
No, they started at the north end, some excavating this morning. I would have preferred to see that nice wall remain too, but we tried. Planning board wouldn't go with it.
Anything else? Trustee White?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm here serving as the mayor's liaison from the village board to the agency. And I too share the concerns of the board with the rather ambitious schedule for completion of the building. Strictly from a layman's point of view, I don't think they're going to be in there probably before late fall, assuming they get everything corrected and the approvals from the state and so on. Some of my concerns and some of the concerns that were expressed by the people of the Tarot Club, of course, was the matter of the leakage into the garage, which was the biggest problem. I just wondered to what extent the work has progressed so that that film can be laid and solve that one immediate problem that would probably take care of the electrical deterioration there in the building and so on. So that's one of my questions.
Okay. Mr. Horowitz, could you address yourself to that?
Yes. What that work was waiting for, and is still waiting for, is that, as you know, there is some construction that takes place On the plaza deck itself, there is some penetration of steel that supports the last bay to go in there. You'll see now that those penetrations have been made. As soon as that steel is set, which should be within the next 2 weeks, we will then be able to go in and apply the coating to the top.
So sometime within a month?
Within a month, that work should have commenced on the top. And of course, once that's complete, we test it for water tightness, and once that's done, we'll go back and repair all the
They'll solve
fireproofing
most of the
underneath.
problems in the garage. And the other item, and I know it's probably been asked a number of times of you gentlemen up there, and the mayor and some of the members of the board have varying opinions as to what penalties will be exacted if that is the case where they go beyond the July 1st date.
Well, at this juncture, I think all the money that we were holding as deposits has been released to the agency. I don't think we're holding anything as a deposit as such anymore. I know there are letters of credit that were, I forget the amount. I think approximately $500,000. There's no mechanism in the disposition agreement as such for a penalty. What has happened in the past has been when they've gone beyond the date, there has been basically a negotiated agreement pursuant to which, usually in return for a portion of their deposit, the agency has agreed to extend the date of completion. I think that Mr. Bernstein realizes now, and he's a very astute, as you know, he's an astute businessman. He's represented his interests and those of his partners very well, that this July 1st date, I can't speak for the whole board, but I have to imagine he believes and he understands, we certainly express it to him, that this July 1st date is about it. I mean, there better be substantial completion by that date. I understand there may be a punch list with some minor items, but the project had best be completed by that date. Absent extending the completion date pursuant to another negotiated agreement, the board's only recourse would be to hold the developer in default.
He has 6 months to cure that, though.
He's got 6 months to cure that, that's correct.
So in other words, he really has 6 months from July 1st.
He really has 6 months from July 1st, but...
without any penalty.
That's right, without any penalty. There was never a penalty in the original disposition agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Although I think we are some $140,000. How much is it, Tony? The deposits that we've gotten, do you recall offhand?
About 140, yeah.
Yeah.
We
Well,
have
that had already been lost. Is that
that had already been lost. Even though he would have 6 months to cure, I'm sure the developer would not look kindly on being held in default because all sorts of complications arise with his lenders, etc.
No, I'm sure the village wouldn't want to do anything to jeopardize the sale of the...
We wouldn't.
And we certainly wished him well. We don't want anything to happen there. But being realistic, you know that schedule is not going to be met. And I don't think anybody listening to this evening is going to say that they're going to complete it by that date.
That may be the case. We'll have to wait and see, you know. I certainly hope it can be met.
Thank you.
I think we are, you know, as the answer to your question is there is no penalty as such. It has never been since the original disposition agreement was signed that there is a penalty as such. Every time we have given extensions, or most of the occasions, though it has been in return for something that a benefit will eventually flow to the village, because as you know, when we go out of existence, those monies will be turned over to the village for use in the CD area.
Yeah, I'm glad that was made clear, because I think it came up when Mike was at one of the village board meetings. I don't know that was answered sufficiently. I think Mike did mention something, the fact that there would be no penalty, and others on the board thought there was $1 million bond or something like that.
Yeah, but those bonds, if we were to cash in on those, that would be money, which is my understanding, we would have to take and go out and complete the project ourselves, which is nothing we would want to get involved in, obviously.
Definitely not.
That was only to get this last section started.
Yeah.
Personal guarantee from Mr. Bernstein.
Yes, but the same thing on the guarantee, if we were to call in on that money, it's my understanding, it's not money that's going to go to us or into our coffers or to the village coffers. Right. It's money we would have to take and go finish the project with, something we certainly don't want to get involved in, especially at this late date where We're well along the
So
way.
near-
I mean,
near
hopefully,
completion.
you know, we're coming to the end of the trail on this.
Well, we wish them well and certainly hope that they do complete it,
Right.
as they have said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Phil, before you sit, I want to set the record straight for one remark that my friend Bernstein had made. He said that the former contractor delayed that job. Well, I can verify it. What Mr. Spadanulo or Mr. O'Keefe had to contend with. They had the worst part of that whole job, the whole section from Underhill Street all the way to the other end of 400 Columbus Avenue. Do you realize the amount of stone that they had to go down with a pick, annoying people for all them months? It was no easy job. Couldn't blast. Well, you talked about the former guy that just got out of there. Well, I hope you didn't mean that, because I think Andy did whatever he could have. And I think Mr. O'Keefe ran a job that he was always welcome to stand and listen to any of us that went there. If we had a good suggestion, he took it. If he... Yeah.
Well, that certainly has been a very difficult site to develop, and I think anybody that...
But anyhow, I'm glad it's gotten this far.
Oh, one last point of information. Have you decided on a name for that group of townhouses?
Will that have a separate name?
Or is it still a part of the Tower Club, or a separate group? Okay. One of the suggestions, if I might make, and years ago, the street, Columbus Avenue, was known as Breckenridge. We can incorporate that into some of your literature as a suggestion. Maybe the Breckenridge. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. John, were you looking?
Columbus. It was Columbus. They changed it. Why Breckenridge? There ain't many of us living in Tuckahoe to remember when it was Breckenridge.
John, did you have something?
No, I just wanted to say it was nice to see a dialogue between the builders. I got good vibes tonight for the change. The questions and answers that were given.
All right. Thank you, John. Anything else, Mr. Bernstein, Mr. Horowitz? Okay. Thank you. I hope we'll see you again before July, maybe as we get closer to the date.
Well, hopefully we'll maybe have a little party for the village, and hopefully not for the village. But
Okay.
we'll look at the end and
Anything else from the board? Tony, do you have anything tonight?
Plans, I...
Okay. If there's no other business, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Well, before we
Okay, go ahead.
entertain, I'd like to, before the final phase of urban renewal project is complete, I'd like to attend the New York State Association of Renewal and Housing Conferences to be held on June 3rd. As you know, this project has contributed to the park and traffic problems. If the funds are available, I'll try to pursue this matter and get some money for the village.
Any comment?
It's okay with the board?
Okay. Well, let's do it in the form of a motion. I'll move it. Second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. I think it's it'll be good for the village, even though we might go out of existence in a hopefully in a relatively short time period. I'm sure Commissioner Carapella will continue in some manner to be actively involved in village affairs and volunteer his time as he has in the past. So I think it's appropriate that he go to that. I don't think anybody has in the last 4 years attended anything. So I think one educational outing is certainly warranted.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. But we didn't pay for that, did we? No, okay. All right, I'll move to adjourn. Is there a second?
So.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
You've been watching recorded coverage of the April 18th, 1990 Tuckahoe Urban Renewal Agency meeting. Your director cameraman was Dewey Macenti, chairman of the Tuckahoe Cable TV Advisory Committee and Tuckahoe Cable Associate. Camera setup and graphics provided by Thomas Kennedy, director of cable communications for the Village of Tuckahoe, and coverage of the April 18, 1990 Urban Renewal Agency meeting was a Village of Tuckahoe Cable 36 presentation.